Your brand new engine may have left the factory with metal shrapnel inside it, and the car makers knew. General Motors just recalled over 700,000 trucks because their flagship V8 can tear itself apart, and Toyota is replacing more than 100,000 engines that shipped full of factory debris. The two most trusted names in the business, both grenading the same way at the same time. This is not bad luck. It is an epidemic, and German engineers just exposed exactly what's causing it. So why are the engines you pay the most for the ones most likely to fail? And why won't a single car maker admit it? Make sure you subscribe. Because I started this channel for one reason, to share what dealerships and car makers don't want you to hear. With your support, I can keep making these videos. Now let's get into it. Let's start with just how bad this has actually gotten, because it is far worse than most buyers realize. Take General Motors, their 6.2-liter V8, the big motor they drop into the Silverado, the Sierra, the Tahoe, the Yukon, and the Escalade. All of their flagship trucks and SUVs, they had to recall over 700,000 of them because the engine can tear itself apart. The bearings let go, the entire bottom end comes apart, and the truck dies right there on the highway. Now, you might assume that is just GM being GM. But then look at Toyota. Toyota, the one company whose entire reputation is built on nothing but reliability. Their newest twin-turbo V6, the one in the Tundra and the Sequoia, has been pulled out and replaced more than 100,000 times because those engines came off the assembly line with loose metal shavings rattling around inside them. And it is not just those two. Hyundai and Kia had it so bad, with engines knocking themselves to death and some of them even catching fire, that they settled one of the biggest engine lawsuits in history and recalled millions of cars. Ford's small turbocharged engines have their own well-known failures, so this is not one company having a rough run of luck. This is the biggest, most trusted names in the entire industry, all cooking their own engines at the exact same moment in history. And when that many giants all fail the same way at once, that is not bad luck. That is a pattern. Picture a buyer in the Dallas area who saved for years and finally bought a brand new truck for one reason: to have something reliable, only to have the engine seize solid on the interstate at 40,000 miles, with his whole family sitting in the back seat. That story is not rare anymore. It is happening every single day, all over this country. And German engineers who study this for a living just laid out exactly what is behind it. And the first thing they point to is a smoking gun that should genuinely shock you, because when you look closely at why the GM V8 and the Toyota V6 are both failing, you find the exact same cause sitting right there: debris. Metal garbage left behind inside the engine, straight from the factory. GM said it plainly in their own recall paperwork that their engines were failing from sediment and out-of-spec crankshafts, junk and sloppy machining left down in the bottom end. And Toyota said almost the exact same thing: machining debris left behind during manufacturing. Now stop and think about what that actually means. These are supposed to be the finest, most automated, most advanced engine factories on the entire planet, and they are shipping brand new engines out the door with loose metal rattling around inside them, just waiting to chew the bearings to pieces. That is not a fluke. That is a full quality control collapse. Somewhere along the way, in the rush to build more of them faster and cheaper, they simply stopped catching the garbage before it went out the door. The old way was to build slower, check everything twice, and never let a dirty engine leave the plant. But that kind of care costs money, and it costs time, and the bean counters decided you did not need it. So now your brand new engine comes with a factory-installed time bomb sitting inside it, and you do not find out until the day it goes off. Put it in terms you can feel. It is like buying a brand new rifle and finding out later the factory left a chunk of metal shaving jammed down in the barrel. It might fire just fine for a while, and then one day it blows up in your hands. That is exactly what they handed you, and they knew the machining was dirty when they boxed it up and sold it as new. And do not let them tell you it was just a handful of unlucky engines. GM's own estimate is that thousands of these trucks will need a complete engine replacement, and Toyota pulled engines by the 100,000. These are not 1 in a million defects. These are defects baked right into the production line, shipped out by the truckload, and quietly waiting in driveways all across the country right now. But the debris is only the beginning, because there is a second killer. And this is the one they tried to hide from you with a bottle of oil. Here is that second one, and it is the one that truly gives the game away. A lot of these modern engines are failing because the bearings, the parts that let the engine spin, are quietly starving for protection. And here is how you know it. Look closely at what GM did to try to fix it. Their headline repair, for the trucks that had not already blown up, was to switch owners over to a thicker oil. That is it. Just put heavier oil in it. Now think about that for a second. If suddenly running a thicker oil is what saves the engine, then the thinner oil they specified from the factory was never really protecting it in the first place. And why did they spec that thin, watery oil to begin with? For fuel economy. Because thin oil creates a hairless drag and squeaks out a hair better mileage on the government test. So they ran your brand new engine on an oil too thin to protect it, just to win a number on a sticker, and let the bearings pay the price. But here's the part that should make you furious. Even their fix is not working. The government's own investigators are already digging into dozens of these engines that failed again, after the recall repair was done, after the thicker oil went in. The government has already logged over 1,100 complaints of these bearings failing, over 1,100, and still climbing. And now they are looking into whether the problem reaches even further, into engines that were never part of the recall at all. When the fix itself kicks off a brand new investigation, you are not looking at a small mistake. You are looking at something rotten all the way to the bottom. That is how deep this problem goes. They cut the corner so hard that patching it over with heavier oil cannot even fully save it. And it does not stop there, because the industry has cooked up a whole menu of new ways to kill an engine, every one of them in the name of squeezing out a little more efficiency. Take the wet timing belt. A timing belt is the part that keeps the top and the bottom of the engine working together, and it always used to sit on the outside, dry, where you could get at it and change it. Some car makers, just to save a few dollars and a hair of efficiency, move that belt inside the engine, running it right in the oil. And those belts break down early, and when they do, chunks of rubber get sucked into the oil system and clog the whole works, and the engine starves and dies. A part they buried inside the motor that grenades the entire thing when it fails. Then there is cylinder deactivation, the system that shuts off half your cylinders on the highway to save gas and quietly wears out the lifters until the whole engine is ticking and knocking. And the tiny turbo engines run so hot and so hard that they cook their own oil into sludge. Every single one of these is a gimmick built to pass an economy test or an emissions test, and every single one is a brand new way for your engine to fail. The German engineers see the pattern clearly. Not one of these things existed on the engines that used to run forever, and every one of them showed up on the engines that do not. And notice the common thread. Every one of these was added to chase a rule or a number, and not one of them makes your engine last a single mile longer. They make it lighter or cleaner on paper or a fraction cheaper to build. The durability was never once part of the equation. It was traded away, deliberately, for something that looks good on a spec sheet and a compliance report, and terrible in your driveway 3 years later. So here's what those German engineers finally put their finger on, the real reason all of this is happening at once, right now. It comes down to 3 words: rushed, cut, and squeezed. Rushed, because these companies are cranking out brand new, wildly complicated engines faster than they ever have, with less real-world testing than ever, just to keep up with each other and beat the next regulation. Cut, because to hit their cost targets and protect their profit margins, they trimmed away the quality control, the good materials, and the plain care that used to catch every one of these problems. And squeezed, because every ounce of the design is now squeezed to serve the fuel economy test and the emissions test, instead of serving the one thing that actually matters to you, which is whether the engine lasts. Put those 3 together: rush development, cut corners, and squeezed for a test, and you get exactly what we are seeing. An entire industry, all at once, building engines that fail. And it is not that the engineers got dumber. The good engineers are screaming about this behind closed doors. It is that the people signing the checks decided that hitting the numbers this quarter mattered more than building something that lasts. And you are the crash test dummy for that decision, paying full price for the privilege. Time was, if a company sold something that broke this often, it went out of business. Not anymore. They're too big, and there are only a handful of them left, so they have all quietly agreed, without ever saying it out loud, that this is just how it is done now. Because where are you going to go? That is the trap. When every one of them cuts the same corners, the buyer has nowhere left to run. And that is exactly why they're getting away with it. Real competition would have punished this years ago. A company that shipped engines full of metal would have lost its customers to one that did not. But when the entire industry is doing the same thing, there is no honest competitor left to run to. The buyer is cornered, and they know it, and they price and build accordingly. And let's be clear about what all of this means for you, standing on the lot trying to buy an honest truck. It means the old rules for keeping yourself safe do not work anymore. It used to be, buy the big proven V8, or buy the Toyota, and you were fine. Not now. The big proven V8 is the exact one GM just recalled 700,000 of. The Toyota is the one now shipping with metal shavings in the crankcase. The safe bets are not safe anymore because the rot got into every one of them. So you spend $60,000, $70,000 on a truck. More money than people used to pay for a house, and there's a real chance the engine eats itself before you have it paid off. And when it does, they will fight you on the warranty. They will blame your oil. They will blame your driving. They will blame anything except their own factory. And even if they do fix it, your truck now carries the stink of a recalled engine. and its resale value takes the hit for it. Not theirs, yours. That is the deal they are handing the American truck buyer right now. Pay more than ever for an engine less reliable than the one your father drove, and carry all of the risk yourself. And here is the cruelest twist. The person most likely to get burned is the careful one. The buyer who did everything right, who saved his money, who bought new instead of used specifically so he would not have to worry, who followed the maintenance schedule to the letter. He trusted them the most, and he is the one they let down the hardest. Being careful used to protect you. Now it just makes you a bigger target. Think about what that does to a person. He did his research. He stretched his budget for the reliable choice. He changed the oil on the dot, and the engine still let go. And then he is standing in a service department being told it might somehow be his fault. There is no amount of doing everything right that fully protects you when the failure was built into the engine at the factory. That is the quiet betrayal sitting underneath every one of these numbers. So here's the real story sitting underneath this whole epidemic. These engines are not failing because building a reliable engine suddenly became impossible. We know for a fact it is possible because they did it beautifully for decades. They are failing because the entire industry quietly changed what it was building for. It stopped building engines to last and started building them to pass a test, hit a price, and get to the dealer lot as fast as possible. And every corner they cut to pull that off, the debris they stopped catching, the oil they made too thin, the belt they hid in the crankcase, the cylinders they shut off, every one of those cut corners is now coming due at the exact same time in your driveway. The engine is not the thing that failed. The priorities failed. They put the fuel economy numbers, the emissions boxes, and the quarterly profits ahead of the simple job of building a motor that runs. And a machine built to serve everything except its own durability is a machine that breaks. That is what these German engineers are really telling you. Not that one part is bad, that the entire way they build engines now is bent, top to bottom, toward failure, and that you are the one left holding the bag when it finally lets go. And once you understand that, you can never quite trust that showroom the same way again. Every gleaming new engine sitting under those lights, you will look at it and wonder, what corner did they cut on this one, and when is it set to go off? That is a miserable way to have to buy a truck. But it is the honest way now, because they are the ones who made it that way. So what do you actually do about it? A few things. First, before you buy anything, look up that exact engine in that exact model year and find out whether it has one of these habits. The information is out there now, and a half hour of looking can save you a blown engine. Second, lean hard toward the proven ones, the engines that have been around long enough to shake out their problems, and away from the brand new, first-year, wildly complex ones the real world has not tested yet. Let somebody else be the guinea pig. It sounds harsh, but that is the reality now. The first 2 or 3 years of a brand new engine are an experiment run at the customer's expense, and the only way to opt out of that experiment is to buy something the experiment already finished on. Third, whatever you buy, baby, the oil. Change it more often than they tell you. Use the right stuff, and keep every receipt, because on the day they try to blame you, those receipts are your only armor. And fourth, remember this, the loudest, most advanced, most feature-packed engine on the lot is not the same thing as the most reliable one. Usually it is the opposite. The truth is simple, and it is ugly. You cannot trust them to build it right anymore, so you have to become your own quality control. You do the homework they should have done. You keep the records they hope you will not. You buy the proven one they wish you would skip. It is more work than it should be, and none of it is fair to you. But right now, it is the only thing standing between you and a grenaded engine you paid a fortune for. The government is already widening its investigation into these failures, which means more recalls and a lot more grenaded engines are almost certainly on the way. Subscribe so you get the truth on exactly which engines to steer clear of before you find out the hard way in your own driveway.